Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to our presentation on DEI for grad students. My name is Cameron Pensack, and I'm the Graduate Resident Assistant.
My name is Emanuela Brempong. I am the Resident Assistant of the Equity and Intersectionality House.
And I'm Alanis Perez Rivera. I'm the Coordinator of Intercultural Engagement and Commuter Life at the Donahue Institute for Equity and Social Justice. So let's start with what is DEI. You've probably heard that abbreviation a lot. So DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The Donahue Institute, where I mentioned that I work, is the office on campus that oversees LaSalle's DEI efforts. Dr. Jesse Toriak is the director of the Donahue Institute and LaSalle's chief diversity officer. He's also a psychology professor. James Perry is our new associate director of the Donahue Institute. He is starting at the end of November. So if you are watching post that date, you can come stop by and say hi to him. He would be very happy to meet some grad students. And I am also here as well. I already told you what I do. So each of us have our offices in the home of the Donahue Institute, which is the Intercultural Center and Commuter Cottage. We call it the IC3. And here's a photo of the IC3 if you don't know where it's located. It is at 70 Maple Street, and it is this cute yellow house that's right by Campus Police.
So you might be asking yourself, okay, well, now I know a little bit about the Donahue Institute, but what is most important to know about the Donahue Institute? And in my personal opinion, that's all the amazing programs that they put on. So for example, the Donahue Institute is the group who puts on our amazing LaSalle You Belong every single year. All that delicious fun food that you've tried, it's in there. We also do really important events like Real Talk on Race that happens every month, and students are invited to attend to actually hear about what is going on our campus. We also have Safe Zones workshops, Afroflow yoga, conversations about intergenerational education and also understanding each other. We have celebrations for each different heritage month, including Latinx and Hispanic Heritage Month. Constitution Day bingo. There is so much that we do, and this isn't even all of it. We still have much more, and you can find them all on the Instagram. And these are just some of the photos of the events. Like I said, if you look at the Instagram, which is IC3 at LaSalle, if you search LaSalle IC3, you should be able to find it. It's pretty clear where it is. It's the second option that comes up. And we have all these great photos on there. We have my friends Elena and Josie celebrating You Belong. We have Jonah Lisa over here with a pillow that she got airbrushed at You Belong. We always have the best food at Donahue events. If you're on campus and you need to eat, go to our events. Free food. Most people love the free food. And then this is just also some of the other pictures of what we do.
So my role on campus is being the RA of the Equity and Intersectionality House, formerly known as the Social Justice and Intersectionality House. And it began as a safe space for students to feel heard, be comfortable. It started off in Kiever House as a place that promoted programs surrounding social justice, tied to themes that related to that. With the help of Cyntoia Simmons, Professor Jesse Toriak, and now Crystal Campbell, who is the new area coordinator of this area. The Equity and Intersectionality House is now in case to be in the middle of campus. And it has a mission to serve as a communal safe space, not only for students of color on campus, but also for groups interested in advocacy, education, and positive communal unity. Here is a video that I did this summer decorating the house to get ready for the new year. I wanted to make sure that the house was a space that reflected a living learning community. So I added in posters, and which we'll see in this virtual tour. Welcome to Case House, the Equity and Intersectionality House here at LaSalle University. My name is Emanuela Brempong, third year RA, and I'm excited to take you on this tour. Before we get into it, here is room 2 where you'll find your RA. If you ever need them, knock and they'll be there. If not, contact them at their email or you can contact the Office of Residential Life for any questions, comments, concerns, which is also the office on campus that will contact you if you're an upperclassman looking to apply to be on. Further down this hallway is the kitchen, but before we get there, we have our first poster. The house has been newly decorated to incorporate different aspects of equity and intersectionality with large posters detailing history, fun facts, and interactive QR codes. Here we have the kitchen, which is also the house's common space. The poster that is planned to be featured in this area will be part of an upcoming program that will encourage residents to get involved with on-campus resources. Now up these stairs, we have our second floor and our second poster, which features information about Women's History Month. On campus, we have clubs like Her Campus and She's the First, which empower and support college women. Our university also holds the Vagina Monologues annually every February. Down this hallway, we have a poster dedicated to the LGBTQ+ community that features art made by our former area coordinator since White Summits. Pride is an on-campus club that provides a safe space for individuals of all sexual and gender identities. Going down the second staircase, we have our Black Lives Matter poster, which once again includes art from our former area coordinator, which also has a large link to the website Ways You Can Help, which has a plethora of links, GoFundMe, resources in which students can use to further help the cause. Finally, we have our poster for Asian American and Pacific Islanders, which includes 10 activists and once again, interactive QR codes. For now, this is all that's been installed, but because equity and intersectionality is such a diverse topic and ever-changing, there are always new posters to be added. Work done as a community in the house will be showcased on this wall here, and this board will become a current events board to keep residents updated on things locally, here on campus. It's always good to stay up to date. Everything in Case House is done to promote equity, intersectionality, and inclusive excellence, but we can't have that without you. Apply to be a resident of specialty housing. Email myself or the Office of Residential Life. Other than that, have a great day and stay safe. Being in the equity and intersectionality house, one of the aspects that plays into that topic is affinity groups. And affinity groups are groups of people, groups made of people who share the same identity and have meetings regarding these identities. While some meetings may be open for allies, most meetings are exclusively for those who have a particular identity. Some of the affinity groups that we have here on campus are LU Pride, Multicultural Student Union, DREAM, which is disability rights, education, activism, and mentoring, and Long Distance Lasers, which is a commuter student club. Identity-based clubs and organizations that are meant for those who share that identity are Queer on Campus, Association of Latin Professionals for America. And within MSU and Long Distance Lasers, there are specific meetings and events that cater to specific identities of students and individuals on campus. Also, a quick plug, my apologies. An affinity group that is currently under the works with Lenore from the Counseling Center and Professor Jessie Toriak is an affinity group for RAs of color. It has been brought to the Counseling Center's attention that this is a need for student leaders, and hopefully it will be something that is expanded to the vast majority of the campus as well.
I want to quickly add to the previous slide, you don't have to hop back. When you are interested in going to a club meeting for some of the clubs that Emanuela mentioned, check in to make sure if you are coming as an ally that that day is a day that is open for allies and not of only people who are a part of that affinity group. So we're going to move on to some resources on campus, and a very important resource that we have at LaSalle, which is our bias reporting system. So you can get to our bias report form by going to the LaSalle website. Then under campus life, you can find our diversity, equity, and inclusion page. From there on the right, you'll find a tab that says best. We'll talk a little bit more about best. And then from there, you can click to report an incident, and you'll be at the form where you are able to report an incident. So let's talk a little bit about that. If you've experienced or witnessed bias on campus, that could be virtually, that could be physically on campus by a student, faculty member, or employee of any kind, you can fill out a bias report and report what happened. So the BEST team is there to help. That is our bias education and support team. Once you fill out that form indicating what happens, they review it. There's a team of people to review it, including Dr. Jessie Toriak, who we mentioned is our Chief Diversity Officer. And they figure out what the next steps are. They evaluate what happened and see what's best to do. I do want to add that please, if you experience bias on campus, witness bias on campus, whether that is by a student, professor, or any employee, to please file a bias report. It's really important because if our BEST team is looking at an incident and sees that multiple bias reports were reported against the same person or maybe about the same incident, that will change the next steps option. You know, something might, the next step would be different and it could even be quicker. Those stuff are more difficult to figure out if there aren't a lot of reports. If there's a lot of reports, it's really easy. So if you see something, please say something, do something. It helps the broader community.
And we also have even more resources than just bias reporting, though bias reporting is super important. So if you would like to scan this QR code that's on your screen now, we also have a Linktree link down here if it's easier for you to type it in. So basically, this will take you to our entire page of DEI resources at LaSalle that the Donahue Institute has created. Some of the resources are our Baseline Action and Momentum for DEI Committee, otherwise known as BAM. They are a group of students, staff, and faculty who are all dedicated to making our campus more inclusive. And I know as a member, I think it's really important work that we're doing. We focus especially on making sure that faculty and staff are aware of the issues that are happening for our students and knowing how to help students the best. And then we also have disability services where you can contact Dolores Radlow. She is the head of them, and she can help you both with educational disability services, like if you were having issues with a class in focusing or with taking notes, anything of that sort. Or if you were on campus, she can also help with specific physical accommodations like emotional support animals, service animals, specific parking accommodations, etc. And then we also have our Title IX office with Jennifer O'Keefe, who is our Title IX coordinator. And that is just a great resource to know for in case you ever need to talk to them too. So now, we just want to point out that if you have any questions about everything you've heard so far, so DEI on campus, the Donahue Institute, the Equity and Intersectionality House, Affinity Groups, bias reporting, or any of our other resources that you saw on that last slide, you can email Grad Professional Studies or the Donahue Institute any questions that you have, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And next, we have a section about microaggressions. And Alanis is going to lead this discussion.
Yes, so leading on to our section about microaggressions, let's begin with talking about what a microaggression is, in case you don't know. So microaggressions are statements, actions, or incidents regarded as an instance of discrimination against members of any marginalized group. They can happen anywhere, at school, in the workplace, online, in stores, on your commute. And they're specifically, unlike overt bias, indirect, subtle, and can be unintentional, although they aren't always. So while they're typically smaller incidents, like we mentioned, not overt bias, they can still have the same impact on a person, especially when piled on repeatedly. So to talk about that just a little bit, on the right side, you can see a little cartoon we have there. It's actually a cartoon made by senior graphic designer Anna King, and it's of our Chief Diversity Officer, Jessie Toriak. So we're just going to talk a little bit about this pile-on principle. So in this cartoon, you can see that in the first upper left corner, Jessie has woken up and he's stubbed his toe. Really annoying. He's then going to campus and someone releases their scooter. He's walking to his office and the scooter hits his toe, the same toe he stubbed right when he woke up in the morning. Ouch, no fun. And then later he's at a pizza party with a bunch of his colleagues and they're having a good time, but he drops his phone on his toe and he freaks out. And all of his colleagues are like, hey, like, calm down. Like, it's not a big deal. You're overreacting. And he's, you know, thinking they don't know what's happened to me all day. So similarly, that's what people deal with when they hear microaggressions about their identity all the time. And maybe if you unintentionally said a microaggression and you think, hey, this person's overreacting, think about intent versus impact. Think about the impact you might have made on a person and think about maybe this isn't their first time hearing that. So just a little thing to think about, because oftentimes microaggressions can be unintentional, and it's important to learn about why it's important to unlearn those microaggressions you may know. So as mentioned, it doesn't matter what the intent was, the impact could be far greater on someone. So next we have this video. Before you play, I do want to say that this video is a great short educational video on microaggressions. It was meant for faculty members at LaSalle. So Robert Emilio here does speak as if he is speaking to our faculty members. I also want to say that at the end of this video, Robert gives examples of microaggressions. So just prepare yourself for that content.
Today, we're going to be talking about microaggressions. Some of you have heard of this term before. For some of you, it might be brand new. We're going to really dig into it. And one of the reasons we put this in here is because students, especially, are so aware of microaggressions. And we want all faculty to be aware of them as well. In fact, one you can see at the bottom of your screen, where are you really from, is the question. And soon you'll understand why that's a microaggression. What are they? Brief and commonplace verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or not, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative slights and insults to the target person or group. So things that feel bad when they happen to the person they're told or done to. Who is the target person or group? Usually someone perceived to have less power, less status, less advantage or privilege. Microaggressions usually come from someone who is seen as having more authority than the person they're delivering it to. Behaviors that include or exclude others. They're sometimes referred to as micro inequities, things that happen, words that are used that make people unequal. When we're talking about them, we're talking the word micro here meaning small, small things, behavioral things, verbal things. Macro, on the other hand, is large, system, society, organizational level things. We're going to look at a bunch of microaggression examples. Not going to talk about them first, just look. Here we go. A faculty member to a Black colleague, I love your hair, and then touches it. A straight student to a trans woman student, what if you had worked a little harder to be a man? A supervisor to a college intern, you'd do so much better if you lost about 30 pounds. A faculty member to a Latinx male who just won a math award, your people must be so proud of you. A colleague to a coworker, for not having a bachelor's degree, you're pretty smart. And finally, a white student to a Black student. I grew up poor. My story is just like yours. So I want to ask you, as you look at these, what makes these microaggressions? What are your thoughts?
So to follow up on how that video ended, what are your thoughts? How did hearing these examples of microaggressions at the end make you feel? Did you know that students at LaSalle experience this? They do. And these were examples inspired by things that happened. Have microaggressions affected your life as a student, employee, or community member? And what can you do when you witness a microaggression? So quickly, I can say if you are in the right place to do so mentally, that what you can do when you witness a microaggression is take that moment to educate if you feel up to doing so in that moment. And if you, as I said, are in the mental position to do so, I highly encourage it. It can help the person who is being microaggressed at the moment. Thank you.